everybody, welcome to the Chess Harbor. My name is Raf, and today we're reviewing another one of my games from the Club Championship in the Road to Master series. The game starts with d4, and my opponent played the move e6, which is a relatively flexible move. It invites me to play e4 and then d5, which transposes to the French defense, but after a move like c4, you could also play f5 and you'd enter some kind of Dutch. Both of these options are not really to my taste, so I decided to play the move knight to f3, which is kind of a flexible waiting move I want to play anyway. And now my opponent played knight to f6, and I still don't want to play the move c4, as that would invite a bishop check on b4, and then you enter the Bogo Indian defense, which is kind of an offspring of the Nimzo Indian, something I have absolutely no knowledge about. It's one of the gaping holes in my theory gap I need to be working on, so I decided to avoid that by playing the move g3, which enters a more Catalan-ish realm I do know. And my opponent played the move g6, which is a little surprising to me, putting two pawns on light squares, which potentially weakens some dark squares around his king. So I played bishop to g2, bishop to g7, and now just normal castles, and my pawn plays d5. So it's starting to look a lot like a normal Catalan position, where black has these two pawns, and eventually we're going to break with the move c4. The only odd thing is that the bishop has been developed to g7 instead of to the normal e7 square. So I decided to play the move b3 here, potentially putting my bishop on a very dangerous diagonal, or otherwise just mirroring his fianchetto. Because black plays a kind of slow-ish system here, I have the time to play this kind of crisscross double fianchetto system as well. So I think it's probably a good thing, and also the pawn on b3 supports an eventual c4 push as well. So my opponent plays knight b to d7, also just developing and enabling c5, bishop to b2. I was thinking about playing bishop to a3 here, but after a move like c5 now to block up the diagonal, you can't really take here, because a move like knight to e4 is absolutely lethal. There is no way to stop this bishop from scoping the rook, and yeah, this extra pawn is really nothing, so you'd have to play something like this, which is, yeah, that doesn't really look very appealing to me at all. So yeah, I didn't want to go into that, so I just played bishop to b2, and now my opponent did play c5, b takes on c5, knight takes on c5, and now a nice move c4. And here my opponent took for quite a while, or took a lot of time. He thought for quite a while, and eventually he takes on c4, which I think is a mistake. I think he should have kept the position closed, just castle here, and after an eventual swap here, you know, black doesn't really have any center left, but neither does white, and the position is very flexible, very open. The bishops are going to come off, and I think if anyone's better here, I think it is white. Because there is still some kind of pressure on the long diagonal. This bishop is not the best piece because it's blocked in with the pawn, but it should be relatively equal. I think black has good chances to hold for a win here, or play for a draw here. So he didn't do that. After move c4 he took, and that enters a nice endgame for me. After queen takes on d8, king takes on d8, because he still hasn't castled yet, I can take abuse of that and play the knight to e5, which attacks f7 with a fork. So the next move is really forced, either rook to f8 or king back to e8 or e7. If he plays rook to f8, I have the intermediate move with check on d1, so that's something that he really should not allow, as it only gives me more tempos. So he does play king to e8, and now I can take back on c4 with the knight. And this knight is really well placed, potentially giving another check on d6. And now my piece coordination is just amazing, because I've opened up this bishop as well. His queen side is kind of in shambles. So he plays the knight back to d8, knight c to d7, and now knight b to a3. It's a nice move, as it enables me to play knight to b5 with another threat of a fork. But at the same time, I just want to move the knight out of the way so I can develop my lost pieces. He decided to play knight to h5 because he wanted to trade at the bishop, so I do that, which makes his knight a bit worse as well. His knight does have the f5 square available, but right now his knight is really just passive on g7. Now I give this check on d6, king to f8, and rook to c1. So I'm threatening the bishop. He has to do something about that, so he moves his knight to b6, and now I move my other knight into c4. So I have really beautiful piece coordination. I have a lot of attacking potential on b7, so white is winning material here. There is no way around that, but there is nothing urgent, so I just improve the position first by taking the knight. He has to take back with the a pawn, and now I can take the bishop first, and I play a4. Reason why I play a4 is after I take here, let's put that on the board. He has an intermediate move, I have to take back, and now he can take back on a2. So material is level. I think white is still better in this position, but it's a little bit murky. I don't particularly like this position, so a4 just blocks out any kind of play here, and this pawn is still hanging. Obviously he can't defend that pawn because that would hang the rook, and if in this position he trades off a pair of rooks, this pawn is still critically weak and I can always win it like this. So there is no way that he's not going to be losing material here. So he plays his knight to e8, which is sensible. He needs to bring this knight back around, and now I do take on b7. He takes the rook, because otherwise he would lose an exchange as well, and now rook to d8. And this position is winning for white, but for some reason I had many winning opportunities in this position and I managed to not play them. I start with bishop to e4 because I had looked at rook to d2, which is what he played, and then bishop to d3, just locking in his rook. His rook has nothing to do. If this rook goes behind the pawn, I could always protect with bishop to c4, and my bishop is very well placed. After a move like knight to d6, I didn't particularly like the idea of having to swap a pawn like this, so that's why I didn't go for this line. And in the end, I decided to play rook to c2, which is also okay, but it gives black way more drawing options here, as now his king and knight are close to the passed pawn. So that's exactly what happens. So he takes with the rook, I take back with the bishop, and now he moves in his knight. I play the move b4, and he plays rook to king to d6. And now the king and the rook, the king and the knight are much closer to the passed pawn than my king and bishop are. And the bishop can support the pawns, but I had overestimated this position. Back when this move happens, I started to think about this endgame, and I thought, if I trade the rooks, if I manage to play b4 and I manage to play a5, I can get this passed pawn on a light square, so trade off one of the pawns, put a pawn on the light square, and then I can start moving in my king, and by the time his knight shuffles around together with his king, he's going to lose so much tempi that my king has managed to crawl in on his pawns. But it actually turns out that this is way too slow, and my calculation skills weren't strong enough to calculate this far ahead. So after rook takes on c2, bishop takes on c2, knight to c7, I played b4. I was still in my plan of going for the a5 plan, but it just flawed. In this position, it would have been much better to just start marching my king up and allow his king to get closer as well, but then just tuck the bishop away and have my pawns be protected on light squares, and then my king actually does have enough time to step into his pawns. Yeah, that was really just a very big oversight by myself. I thought this plan with pushing the queenside pawns, making the outside passer here was strong, but it turns out it's just drawing. So king to d6, a5, I wanted to make the passed pawn, king to c6, which is really just not what I expected. I really only calculated this variation where after a pawn here, for example, he would have to go here, and I could now just start marching up the king, and if he ever wants to protect it against this, in the meantime I'm infiltrating. But I really just miscalculated that. So after king to c6, I took king takes b6, and now it turns out that I do have a winning move, bishop to a4, which is also something that I had calculated, but I thought that this move still draws for black with a move like knight to d5. But here I still have some counterplay left. Apparently, yeah, I looked at this, but it didn't look convincing to me either. So I played bishop to d3. So after king takes b6, I played bishop to d3, kind of with the same idea. And here my opponent offered a draw, and I was tempted to accept it because I thought, yeah, it's probably a draw. The knight has very easy way to harass my pawn now. If I push it ahead, he just jumps back and the pawn is a goner, and this 4 versus 4 is always going to be lost. But I declined to draw. I thought, let's just try it out a little bit more. My opponent still can mess up. So knight to d5, b5, knight to c7, as I said. And now king to g2, knight takes b5, bishop takes b5, king takes b5, king f3, king c5, king e4, king d6, and it's starting to look painfully clear that this is going to be a draw. Yeah, this pawn endgame 4 versus 4. It's just, if I manage to get my king here before him, this would be different, but now it's just nothing. So I played g4. If he still makes a mistake, I might be able to play pawn to g5 with a nice lockdown on his pawns, but he doesn't allow that. He plays h6, which is a good move by him. h4, f6, f4, f5 check, and here we shook hands and we managed to end on a draw. This position is completely equal. There is nothing that is going to happen. I just move back the king, and yeah, it's a draw after something like this. Excuse me. So I actually did play. I played g takes on f5, and I re-offered him a draw, and he accepted. But because both pawn takes should be a draw here, you can't see the tabletop analysis that Lichess offers, but both moves, both g takes on f5 and e takes on f5, both offer a draw, according to the tabletop from Lichess, which is also just, yeah, it's a 3-on-3 on the king side. Both kings can't get in, so after a move like this, you just mirror the queen, you just mirror the kings, and yeah, you're not going to get in here. So this is a draw. Well, not what I had hoped, especially because I definitely knew that I had some winning chances in this game. I knew that I was much better after this position, which after a4 here, I knew that my position was winning. I was going to win this b7 pawn. I had a winning endgame, but I didn't manage to convert it. After all, a draw is not bad. It does give me good ranking. Having no losses yet, it does give me a good ranking in the club championship, and it's definitely a good learning school. The opening was kind of a snore after this e6 move. Yeah, I should definitely study up on my theory, either just accept going into a French or accept going into some kind of Bogo Indian theory is probably even better for white. It's definitely something that I could work on to become a better player. And then especially the endgame technique here, after this position, the endgame technique should have still been better. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something from my mistakes here, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.